You know, nothing like a good old violent bar fight to get the blood going. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. This one's a little bit behind. Two reasons. One, if you can't hear, there's a bit of a head cold that I'm coming on the tail end of. So I kind of had to get that right. And second, it's the holidays. As much as I love doing these and I genuinely enjoy this stuff, family comes first. So episode 4 is here. It's called Night at the Symphony. It picks up right at the end of the last episode where Reacher, Neely, OD, and Dixon are in a diner looking over the things that they got from the smash and grab. For the most part, they're coming up empty. They're like, we're not really seeing anything. We don't see anything. Uh, but we also had learned at the end of that last episode that Swan, who's a member of the 110, works for New Age. It was a part of their security. It was second in line at the security detail, and so they are all sort of questioning whether or not he is in on this, or he's dirty, or he's not. But he's in the win, and so a little bit of what I said in the previous video, where I was like, somebody on this team is not on the up and up. I think that this episode does a little too much to point towards Swan. It's like he's the red herring. I don't think he has anything to do with this. I think he might have got in over his head, and then something else happens. It does not mean that I don't think somebody on this team is not feeding information to our said bad guys. But going through all the paperwork and whatnot, Reacher sees that Shane Langston is the head of the security. And so if he's the head, he feels like he's just sort of deducing that the person giving orders is probably him. And so we know it is because we've seen Robert Patrick playing Shane, but he's sort of deduced that that's who that is. In this, while they're not leading to anything, Neely looks through some emails that Swan only sent to a specific certain set of people, and discussing music that he normally would not like. So it's sort of a code or a trigger to all of them, like, this, we might need to look into this. And it leads them down the way of finding a new project called Little Wing, which is a huge developmental project that the government was doing. That is pretty much the cause for all of this madness that is occurring. OD decides, like, hey, we can get to this guy. I have some tactics. I have some blackmailing tactics that might be able to get us some up and up information on this. If you all are down for it. And Reacher's like, sounds like blackmail, but let's give it a shot. They show another flashback, which is more of a pointing towards Swan, which is why I don't think he's the person doing all of this. But they pointed towards Swan, and there's a drug bust that the 110 does. They're getting drugs off the street, and they manage to collect 47 bags of pure cocaine, straight up, the best of the best of the best. 48 is what they all register and check, but when they do the account at the back of the office, they only have 47. I'm like, wait, hold on. I know for a fact I have 48, blah, blah, blah. You go back and forth. Winds up being in Swan's car. He finds it stashed, but he's saying it fell down there. Reacher doesn't think so. Reacher's like, nah, I believe him. And Neely's not so sure. And so all the team, Neely, Dixon, and Reacher are sort of having this flashback moment together. And they're kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that moment. And you still trust him? And Reacher's like, well, he had a moment at that point in time to just lie and take it and never be the wiser. He gave it back. So I think there's something on the up and up with Swan. So even if Swan does initially help, it feels like, hey, if I got into trouble, I'm going to do whatever I can to sort of get out of this, or not go fully down that path. So at this point, the team splits, and Dixon and Neely go to Marlo Burns, who was the one woman who gave them the address at the end of the last episode when they were in New Age, which wound up being an ambush. They're going to go check on that. Be like, hey, you set us up. So what the hell? They get there, they get to the house, and she's gone. She is nowhere to be seen. She has a daughter. The daughter is also gone. They've taken toothbrushes, but they have not taken a lot of their jewelry, expensive jewelry, and they left a bag full of cash. So they're in a rush and they're on a run. From whom or what, still to be decided, but they are in the wind. Meanwhile, Reacher and OD are finding drugs. They go hit up a drug dealer to get some drugs so that they can kind of do this scenario that they're going to do later, where they set up Daniel Boyd at the Symphony to sort of get caught in a drug bust. Um, there's a cute little moment with the team. This is what I do like, and I'll say this: season one I appreciate more because I think it got to the point and started dealing with layers of characters between him and Willa's character and Finley, and it seemed like it took more time. I think when we have this many characters, it feels like we don't get as much time to get some of the character beats. Um, but when you get the little familial family moments, it's pretty cool. So when they all meet back up, they have to get dressed for the symphony. They're going out to the symphony. This is where Daniel Boyd is at, and they get to all put on their finest wares. And Reacher Reacher puts on a suit and throws away his other clothes. And OD's like, wait, what? You just have the boots? And I'm like, yeah, if I keep the boots, if I keep the shirt and keep this, I got to buy a suitcase and I got to buy a house. And OD's like, you ever got diagnosed as being a sociopath? And we're just like, well, not diagnosed. The cool little rapport of like two brothers, but then they see the girls come out. Neely, who kind of like Okoye and Black Widow, hates your dressing up and she looks stunning. And then Dixon comes out and Reacher's mouth could catch flies. And Neely sort of calls them out on it. So it's a cool little moment to see sort of how they've never seen each other in this manner. And like, oh, you guys all clean up pretty well. Small moment, but it's a cool enough piece that I'm glad it's in here to sort of show their camaraderie. So they go to like pull up an Ocean's 11-esque sort of stunt at the symphony where Dixon goes to the floor level where Daniel Boyd's seats are and kind of feigns ignorance and saying, "I don't know where my seats are. What is this, the mezzanine or whatnot?" She has tickets for the mezzanine. Daniel Boyd seeing her in that dress, and I get it. It's kind of like, no, hold up, you good? You can just hang up down here. We got you. I'll tell my assistant he don't have to be up in the mezzanine on your ticket. She's like, wait, that seems wrong. Are you sure? He's like, no, I got you. While that is happening, Reacher and OD are sort of trying to figure out what that code that Dixon was figuring out was, and they come up with the idea that this is a tally marker. Like this is a tally. And what they say is that this is a tally that has the number of completions of a thing and the number of times that they failed, and the difference of them comes up with the 650K that they have, where it's like 665 jobs have not been done at 150 each. So the money all comes together at 650, and they're kind of like, "Ha! This is what this is." At that point, Dixon at the intermission of the symphony, Dixon takes Boyd out to the car, have some party favors with the drugs that they got earlier, and then a blast from the past comes back and shows up. Made my heart joy, and it actually it made me realize how much more I love the characters of season one than I do fully love the characters of season two. But Finley is back. Finley comes in and does a favor for Reacher. He puts the badge on the door, and he comes out and he arrests Boyd. They put him in a holding, like the interrogation room, and then Reacher and OD come and do their business. And some blackmail, and Finley's in there. He's like, I'm with this. I'm in it too. But they get the information, and they find out that Little Wing is an anti-missile software that New Age has found a little bit of a trick to turn it so that it can pretty much take anything out of the sky, and that it can defeat all countermeasures. So it's becoming this super weapon that they're prepping for, which is not what it was intended for, but that is what it's being used for. And it's being passed through because so many people don't read what they sign. They like slip it under enough pages that they like just ignore it all. And so Finley sort of asks, while Reacher and OD are doing all the interrogation, Finley's like, hold on real quick. So you're just saying that this weapon could just shoot a random commercial flight out the sky? He's like, yeah, of course, that's light work, but nobody's ever going to do that. And they're like, are you nuts? If you pay somebody much, they will absolutely do that. So the stakes have risen just a bit here. We also find out that there's a New Age place where they're at, as well as in Denver. So that is why we are seeing AM, who's just running amok. He is murdering people, killing people left and right. But AM, because his flight got delayed because they were tracking him, he realized that, hey, they're on to me. He went, killed a doctor who he sort of looked like, took on his persona, killed the nurse or the secretary, and then put like all appointments are canceled. And then he used his identity to sort of get back on his track and get back to Denver. So Denver is where he's heading. In that, we find that when they're on their way to sort of debrief and kind of like relax and go to a diner, Dixon and Neely are going to head out to Denver to sort of reach out and look at that new age building that they didn't really know about. And Reacher and OD are going to go to DC to talk to Homeland Security and sort of use some of the context that Reacher's brothers has to sort of dive a little deeper into what the heck's going on. But as they arrive at the diner, a biker gang comes out. It's the next wave of people that Langston has sent out to them to take them off the board. The biker gang approaches them and says, "Hey, we're going to take away your guns," and then they put their guns away. So that it's at that point that Reacher realized that, oh, they don't want any sounds. They want this to happen quietly. And then we get a violent, aggressive, well done action sequence where you get people's eyes getting gouged out, people getting hit with pipes. It is a wild time. I was like, wow, this escalated massively. And to the point where then after they cleaned house, killed everybody. I don't even want to tell you everything that happens. It's just a really, really good time. There's one moment I had to mention. There's one moment and you're like, oh, Reacher, you're a superhero. It's so freaky. Where a person is coming in with a chain, and he wraps the chain around his arm and like rips them off the chef's kiss. Beautiful. But after all, everybody's dispatched. Reacher goes to the phone and calls Lynx. He's like, oh, hate to break bad news to you again, but another wave of your people are dead. It's at that point that Langston's like, hold on, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Let's talk about this a little bit. What is it that, if you ask for anything in the world, what is it that I can give to you? And Reacher's like, I want to find you and I want to throw you out of a helicopter. And that's how the episode ends. I want to say this about how these episodes end. I feel like they're pushing so hard into the cliffhanger aspect of it that it feels forced. Because we're not doing the binge model, but it feels like cool scene. And guess what? Come back next week because I'm going to throw you out of the helicopter. It doesn't feel as really earned. I feel like that could have been, they tightened the camera and got up on his face. And I feel like, this is the end of the episode. We're going to something, tune in next week. We can play that a little softer so it doesn't feel like you got to hook us every time. Also, I think, like I said, I think I prefer season 1 so far more than I do season 2, just because I genuinely like the characters more in that first season. But I will say that the red herring that they are actively doing to Swan lets me to believe that somebody on the team that he's currently working with might be in on this. Taking Neely off the board. Neely is not doing anything to sort of disservice Reacher. Like, they are 1A and 1B. So it leaves you with OD and Dixon. One of the two of them in my brain just feels like something. It's one of them is not completely on the up and up. Just because of how closed off Reacher is to relationships with people, I feel like it feels like Dixon might be the person that's a little bit more dirtier than on OD. It's just my thought. I believe OD in the family stuff. He was too quick with the Blues Clues stuff. But it feels like Dixon, maybe she isn't all what she's cracked up to be. But I know for a fact it's not Swan. What did you guys think about this latest episode of Reacher called Night at the Symphony? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere the place podcasts. We're there. Hopefully my voice doesn't sound like this by the time that I do episode 5, which will be up Thursday night. Like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.